This episode is sponsored by Squarespace. Whether you need a domain, website, or online store, make your next move with Squarespace. A few weeks ago, I took a trip to Morocco with a couple of friends of mine, and it was a whirlwind trip. We only had a couple of hours in each place, and even though most of the time the weather wasn't great and the light was super flat, I obviously still had to get out there with a camera. Now, I'd never been to Morocco before, and there's always something particularly exciting about walking streets you don't yet understand, especially if they've been shaped by a culture you've never experienced. But on this trip, I noticed something maybe slightly embarrassing about my own street photography mentality that I thought would be worth sharing with you. Our first stop was Chefchaouen, often called the Blue City. It was found in the 1400s in the Rif Mountains of northern Morocco, and it gets its name because the narrow alleyways that climb the hillside are painted this rich and vibrant blue. There are lots of theories about why. Some say that the color helps to keep the streets cool in the hot summer months. Others suggest that the blue helps to repel mosquitoes, and some historians suggest that it all started with a Jewish community that moved to the city in the 1930s and started to paint their houses blue to distinguish themselves from the rest of the community, but this trend started to spread. But whatever the reason, it's now carefully maintained and citywide because they know that tourists come from around the world to see these bright blue streets. Unfortunately, we arrived just after sunset and went straight out to dinner, so there wasn't much opportunity to photograph that evening. And the next morning we had to be in the car by 11 a.m. to get on to our next destination. So I woke up a little bit early and headed out onto the streets. And even though the skies were a lead grey and there was a little bit of drizzle coming down, there was no way I was going to miss this opportunity to photograph a city that had been on my list for years. And if I'm honest, I was immediately frustrated because the light was flat and so I couldn't photograph with the light and shadow the way I normally like to. The streets were pretty empty because the weather wasn't great and so there weren't many subjects around. And this might be a little bit weird to admit in this context, but I actually don't usually like blue in my photographs. And in that moment, I realized somewhat shamefully that I was mildly annoyed at this beautiful place for not fitting into my style of photography. There's an embarrassing arrogance to that. Here I was in this vibrant new setting, and my instinct was to try and impose myself on it, to try and force it to fit my aesthetic. It was like I was trying to stamp my style over its substance. Instead of letting the place speak for itself, it's like I just wanted to use it to speak for me. I wanted to change it to fit my approach, instead of just being present to it and allowing it to change me. If we're honest, there can be a quiet narcissism to street photography, and as you can see, I'm not immune to it. And it happens when we go out there thinking that the most important thing about our images are our voice. And when we have that mentality, the place we're standing in just becomes raw material for our personal expression. But what about the voice of the place itself? What has it already been saying? What stories have been unfolding without us all along? As photographers, we're sometimes like that annoying person at the party who just endlessly talks about themselves and never asks anyone else a question because they're not really interested in anyone but themselves. But I think being a good photographer, just like being a human being, requires that we listen more than we talk. This isn't about trying to make you feel guilty. You've heard that I make this mistake too, and I don't think most of us are acting out of arrogance when we make this mental mistake. I think we've just absorbed some bad habits from our culture that reward certainty and performance. We're told to find our voice, define our style, build our brand. And when we realize that something that we're doing gets some attention online, the temptation is to just keep doing it over and over again, to feed the machine, to keep playing the same note on and on. So every place we visit gets pushed through the mold of our aesthetic because it becomes about my style, my audience, my consistency. And if we're really honest, we end up photographing to be seen rather than to really see. But every now and again we visit a place that simply refuses to fit our visual style and it wakes us up. And that's what Chefchaouen did for me, because flat light and empty streets because of the weather and bright blue and rain just meant it would not fit the way that I normally shoot. And that ended up being a gift. 2 hours shooting there was all it took to humble me again and to remind me that street photography isn't about me speaking for myself all the time. It's actually about me paying attention to the world and allowing it to speak. And paying attention requires openness. It's listening, not talking. Because when it's about us talking, we're imposing meaning on what we're seeing. But when we're really listening, we allow a subject's own meaning to emerge. When we're only focused on what we want to say, we often end up deciding what the photograph should be before we even arrive and experience the place. But when we really listen and we go in and see beyond our narrow style, without agenda, we allow the streets to tell us what matters today. There's nothing wrong with discovering your voice. That really matters. But I think street photography falters when our own personal voice and style becomes so loud that the world we're seeking to photograph can no longer speak for itself. So how do we restore some balance between our style and the world we're trying to photograph? I think the first thing is we have to become more versatile photographers. Sometimes we cling to narrow styles because we don't yet have the skills to photograph in other styles or situations. There are some days when we go out and the light isn't quite right, or the context isn't familiar enough to us, and so we really struggle, or worse, we leave our camera in our bag because we just don't know how to approach what's in front of us. But the antidote to that is obvious. We have to broaden our skill set. We should aim to be the kind of photographers who can make compelling images day or night, rain or shine, home or away, it doesn't matter. We should want to be the kind of photographers who you could blindfold and drop anywhere on the planet. And when you remove that blindfold, we would be comfortable enough with our own skill set that we could make good images of whatever we see. Stop leaning on that one trick that gets you attention and start putting yourself in situations where you feel out of your depth and which don't suit your style, and create your way out. The second thing is to cultivate real curiosity. Go in hungry to learn, not to confirm what you already believe, and let go of the tight plan and the rigid style, and instead follow the questions and stay open. Any good documentary maker will tell you don't go into a story to confirm your assumptions. You go in with a great set of questions and confidence in the skills that you have to capture whatever happens, because that opens you up to the unexpected, and that's almost always more interesting. Taking this approach might mean that you come home with less images initially, but it will also mean that you come home with more questions because they tend to build on each other. And if you have patience with yourself, it's that curiosity that will expand your skill set and deepen your work over time. The third thing, and this is probably the hardest one for me, is to let go of control. I like shooting in conditions that suit my style. I feel confident there, we all do. But I also know on those days, I don't grow very much because in some ways I'm just repeating myself. Choosing to go for growth requires courage because it means leaving the bag of tricks at home and opening yourself up to the way things actually are. And it requires humility too, because on those days you won't be making loads of images in your style that get the attention online that you're used to. You're out of your depth. I don't think I made any great images in Morocco, for example, but I can say that I was learning something new every step of the way. This applies whether we're in foreign or familiar streets. If our photography becomes all about me, my cleverness, my style, the world gets relegated to a backdrop rather than the subject of the image. Street photography isn't about taking from the world. It's about paying enough attention to see what's really there. And if we have the humility to listen, to really listen, we will often come away with images that are far more meaningful than anything we planned. So, if you really want to grow, I would suggest that every now and again, abandon using that trick that you love so much. Stop obsessing about your style and put yourself in situations where you feel completely out of your depth, and let the place you're photographing speak for itself. Before I show you some of the images I made in Morocco, I want to share with you why I actually went. It was actually to do research on a trip that I will be running now in October of this year, and it's a 9-day street photography journey through Morocco, and you can join me. We will spend time together in 3 cities, Chefchaouen, Fez, and Marrakesh, and even take a trip up into the Atlas Mountains to photograph some of the beautiful streets and vibrant culture of this incredible country. We'll have local guides who will help orient us. We'll be running street photography workshops and feedback sessions on your images. And we're even going to have a workshop on zine printing and layout. And we're going to put together a zine ourselves, which will be a collection of our images and writing, so you have an artifact to take home as a reminder of the journey together. If you're interested in joining us and you want more information, I will leave a link in the description below this video. Go along, check it out. And if you scroll down, there's even a button you can press where you can download a PDF, which will give you way more information about the itinerary and what we'll be doing. And if you can't make it this year, or it's sold out by the time you get to the website, don't worry about it. We'll be holding lots more of these workshops into the future. Just scroll down to the bottom of the page and click the button that registers your interest for for future workshops that are coming up, and you'll be notified when they're released. And lastly, thanks again to Squarespace for sponsoring this episode. If you need a new website or a domain, they're a fantastic option. I've used them myself as my website of choice for over a decade now. It was back in 2012 when I decided that it was time to put a website together for my own photography. And I remember going out there and trying to work out how was I going to do this. I didn't understand coding, nor did I understand anything about web design. But when I took a look at what Squarespace offered, I realized I don't have to know any of that stuff to have a great looking website that really shows off my images. Squarespace have a whole host of templates to get you started that are put together by professional designers that you can tweak and customize to your heart's content. And it's all super easy to do in the back end. Without any knowledge of website design or coding, you can just click and drag in image blocks and text blocks and galleries and videos and contact forms and populate your website the way that you want. And because the designs are so minimal, it's your work that ends up doing the talking.
Start your free trial today at squarespace.com and go to squarespace.com/Sean Tucker to get 10% off your first purchase.